talking casually for a second just so I can make sure these are all good.
I feel weird not having headphones on. It throws me off.
Well, that's one thing I got to get is like a split so everybody can put their own in. I don't even know, like, how many can you split off of?
You can do, in theory, as many as you want. Just the signal will get a little bit lower the more you split, but
Split off the split it technically.
yeah, you could go in depth. But they make these little. The one I have looks like a little wheel with like 5 that come off of the one.
Oh, okay.
And it works great.
5's perfect. That's what I need.
I don't typically do more than like 4 guests on an episode, so
Yeah. But we get even with just us, we get jumbled up. Like we all start talking. It's the hardest thing. Like taking turns, especially when everybody's starting to get lit.
Throw a couple beers into it, and all of a sudden people people forget that they're not just.
Where we were in his garage, and the first half of it was pretty much on script, and the second half we were pretty buzzed. I think we had like 16 to 20 different beers that night, where we were doing like little classes and trying them all.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing, we did one at Loose Ends up in Centerville, and I was sitting next to him, and when I like got him ready, he was like talking to everybody, but during the interview he kept turning to me, and I was like, fuck, man. I was always like turning his numbers all over the place. So, all right, you ready? Is everybody's phone off?
Yeah.
So we don't start ringing, or not off, but just on silent. I might want to turn left, right off. I guess it doesn't matter too much. All right, you guys ready?
Yeah.
All right, what's up, Bruise Travelers?
What's going on?
Twitty, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man.
We're doing something different on this one, and I don't always have to lead in on these. You know what I mean? You guys cut in.
You do such a good job
at any point, but we're doing a different podcast than normal because we're not at a brewery. We've done a beer exchange in the garage. This time we're at BC's Bottlelodge up in
Liberty Township. Yep.
Yeah, and we got a celebrity guest on this one.
Where?
The Gnarly Gnome. The Gnarly Gnome decided to
one
sit
and
down.
only.
The inspiration behind all Cincy Beer podcasts, man. Honestly, what's going on, brother?
Oh, not too much. Same old, same old.
Yeah.
Just finding an excuse to get out of the house and grab a beer is what it is.
Right? We never need an excuse to get out of the house.
One of the reasons to do a podcast.
That's the reason we started a beer podcast, was an excuse to hang out and just crack some beers open each week.
That's what we do. We were like, man, why not? We're always going somewhere and drinking, you know what I'm saying? Why don't we just fucking record ourselves while we're drinking beers and talking about them anyway?
Right.
That's how this all came about. So
I mean, we get out and have fun doing this, and not only that, it's almost like free advertising for the brewery itself, or a place like this. You know, if people listen, they're going to say, okay, well, I never heard of that place, so go check it out.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of why we're doing what we're doing.
I wonder how much of that really happens, though, because I feel like in Cincinnati, you've pretty much heard of all the breweries. You know what I mean?
I know for a fact it happens to some degree. I mean, I've had breweries. You can name a couple breweries that maybe you went into looking for a certain beer because you heard it on one of my shows, and then it wasn't there.
Paradise.
But it does happen.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
like
happened. We've
you
chased
listen
beers.
to something and it gives you a reason to go there, even if you've been there 100 times.
What are the owners at Paradise?
Jeff and Tammy.
Yeah. So it was. Did you see that clip I did where I was listening to your podcast and he talked about? He said there's this one guy that came in. It was like, yeah, man, like they don't always have the beer when I'm. Sometimes I save these beers and they're gone. Like they've been gone for months. That's what he said. He's like, man, that was a while ago. Bro.
There's some episodes where I'll get the beer, maybe it'll sit in my fridge for a week, then I'll record it, and maybe that doesn't get posted for 3 or 4 weeks then after that. So there's a lot of times where it's either already off the shelf or almost off the shelf.
It's bound to happen. I mean, they rotate through them so quick anyway. You know what I mean? Like even especially like here, like if we started getting beer specific at this place, I mean, you'd probably be hard pressed a week from now.
I was just about to say they generally don't last that long, man.
I mean,
constant rotation.
I don't think, I go to the one in Montgomery most of the time because it's closer to my house, but there's been times I go in a week later and I'm like, fuck, it's already gone, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But speaking of here, and kind of our inspiration for coming here was you and on your podcast. I was listening to your podcast, and you so elegantly said something that I already knew. Like, our podcast is going to be about traveling, about going to new places and going to different cities, or when you come to Cincinnati. And when you go to a new town, you know, you're going to pick up your phone and say you're on a business trip and you're in a hotel and you've got a night to go out and get some beer. Well, you're going to Google brewery near me, but you don't know where you're going to end up. You could end up at a
shitty brewery.
Yeah.
You know, and so the best way to start a brew venture is to come to a place like BC Bottlelodge, or any tap house for that matter, and you go in and you've got somebody who's super knowledgeable about local beers, and they can kind of steer you in the right direction. Or you could try, I mean, I don't know at this time how many local beers are up there, but there's beers from multiple different breweries. So
it's about starting that conversation too, sitting down with somebody that knows a lot about the places around you, be it breweries or whatever you're looking for, and just being able to sit down and be like, oh, what kind of beer do you like? I can tell you that this place and this place, you know, typically brew that style of beer and they do it really well, or just so happens that this place right now has something like that on tap. And, you know, it's, you need a guide to your your adventures.
Even between good breweries, there's a drastic difference between Westside, which brews all traditional styles, and Listerman's, which is brewing all kinds of crazy, nutty, you know, weird
pastries
stuff.
But even then, like if you're a huge fan of Schwarzbier, which is a dark lager, so say that's your thing. I love that, man. You guys have one on tap. That's really great. This is, you know, I love this beer, and maybe Listerman just so happens to have theirs on tap right now, which they don't. For anybody that's listening, don't go there and try to get it. It's not on tap. But you know,
they might by the time this comes out.
It's possible. But maybe they have it on tap, and all you know from Listerman is that they make pastry stouts and things with cereal in them and hippo-themed beers and whatever. Maybe that's all you know, but you sit down in a place like this and start talking to a bartender, like, man, they just know. They just have to. Their smoked porter,
they actually do have beers under 10%. Right?
Yeah, right. But if you just jump on Untappd and read what people are talking about, that might not be what you're gonna think they're doing.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I was going to refer to. You could get on Untappd and check some things, but that's so subjective.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many factors with Untappd.
Which is something I want to talk to you about. I have a specific question about Untappd
All right.
because I know you've got feelings toward it, but I don't know if this is like true, but I feel like if you come to BC's Bottlelodge, you're going to meet people that really like craft beer. You know what I mean? Where if you go to a brewery, you know what I mean? You might be sitting next to somebody who just came up and said, what do you got that's closest to Miller Lite?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where you get in a place like this, you know people are coming for some real good craft beers. You know what I mean? So, and you know, our theme is always traveling. One of the first things we always do is, you know, we kind of do a radius around where we are, talking about what's available. So let's say you're listening to this podcast and you know you're going to be up in this area at some point. What's close? What do we got that's within 5 to 8 miles?
Well,
the
closest,
a quick trip.
The closest, and I know this is also one of Ben's favorites, who we'll talk to here in a few, it's Grainworks.
Yeah, it's like less than a mile.
That's one of
It's
my
1.2 miles
too.
according to Google, which that's not always accurate, but I mean,
I think that's a straight line.
It's around the corner. It's a two-turner,
I love
and
it.
it is. I mean, they make one of my favorite beers in town, Old Ghost, and I mean, everything they make is super solid.
Yep.
Not too far away from here too is you've got your cluster of Mason breweries, Common, which is where we've done podcasts. That's my home court. You got
Dogberry.
16 lots, which is right 2.5 miles from here. Dogberry's 5.1 miles away, and
Which is crazy.
It's weird to think that Mason is closer than Dogberry, because in my head that doesn't make any sense.
No, not at all. Like, I'm looking at the numbers here.
when we did this search, it was kind of mind-boggling because when I was thinking breweries around here, I thought Fig Leaf, Rivertown,
Swine City.
Yeah.
City,
Yeah.
and those are like the further ones away, and those are the other ones on the list. Swine City is 8 miles away, but that's kind of like if you're out here,
That's not that far, really.
It's not
It's
that
not.
far.
You don't
It's
even have to hit the highway if you don't want to. That's
No.
Right.
Right.
It's going to be over there.
Now, Dogberry's 2 miles from my house. I can be there in under 7 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you've got
Or fretboard.
5 or 6 good options. You know what I mean? If you stop in here first. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
this is a good, center point for a good like beer venture or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
Well, and you're around the corner from Liberty Town Center. That's what it's called, right?
Right.
Yeah. There's a Pies and Pints there. There's a what else is over there? I mean, it's a great place. They have a Dora. You
I
can
always
walk
forget about Pies
when
and
it's
Pints.
when
They
it's
have a door? I didn't
yeah,
know
when
that.
it's not cold outside, you can grab a beer at Pies and Pints or at any one of the places over there, and just walk around and drink a beer outside. And I'm sure they do some kind of entertainment and stuff in the summer out there. Like there's a lot to do over here, which
there
is
really
which
is.
is crazy because when this opened up, there was nothing up this way. Like this
Really?
was like, I mean, Jungle Jim's was it's probably about 10 miles away, but
Yeah,
that was the
that's true.
closest like craft beer centric anything. Like there was nothing going on here,
Right.
and so it provided this oasis for people that lived up this way that just were desperate for a place to sit down and talk craft beer with other people.
Plus,
so they didn't have a brewery.
You're right off of 75, like literally a minute or two off 75. So you're going 70, 80 miles an hour. You can get anywhere pretty quickly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're not real far away from anything, but you can go back roads. You can hit a dip route and be at all kinds of places too. So it's definitely a good central location, man. I don't even know what's next, dude.
Well,
What are you guys drinking on?
I'm going to get some shit for how much I preach
the
drinking
Rochester
local.
Mills double chocolate stout.
we're actually not drinking local beer.
Yeah,
either.
I'm not
We're
drinking
both
local.
Rochester Mills, yeah.
No shit, none of us are.
I'm drinking a Radaburger
Mine's
Pilsner.
from Rochester, New York.
I got the scientist from Seventh Son. I like it too, man.
Localist of the bunch.
The localist.
Seventh, where is Seventh? Is Columbus? What are you drinking? You're drinking a Rochester too?
Rochester Mills, yeah. Which I all of those milkshake stouts that I've had so far are just so good.
They do them really well, man.
Yeah.
They do them really well. Every one I've had of theirs, honestly, I've liked. You know what I mean? Like I'd drink them again. So
I promise I'll go relatively local on my next beer. How about that?
I'm definitely going to logo on my next one. There's a West Side, was it Vienna Lager, I think, on the slow pour up there.
Oh,
Well-
that's the west side. Oh,
Yeah.
the one thing I didn't know until we were in here, and I've never done this, I've always ordered off the board, is the singles. You can do a single here, crack it open out of the cooler, pay a little extra to throw it in your glass, and I mean, there's all kinds over there that you can try that aren't even on the board. I mean, you're not getting a draft, you're getting a can, but
Yeah, see,
that doesn't bother me at all.
Doesn't
you
bother me at
got
all.
24
Pour in
on
the
tap
glass
plus the slow pour, and then you add all of those beers. You're looking. There's got to be at least 25 beers over there to choose from, if not a lot more, probably.
I'm super pumped about Fool's Gold being over there. I've been looking for Fool's Gold like the last two times I've been in
the
here.
can format now. They changed from bottles to cans, and I think that's brilliant.
Oh man, it's such a good Hefeweizen. I love Hefeweizen.
Hefeweizen.
Rusted Rail, it's Pennsylvania, but it's just one that I know I'm going to be walking out of here with a 4-pack of that tonight. when he told me it was over there, I got all excited, like yes.
How can you go wrong? Peanut butter and a Hefeweizen. I mean, it's it's Elvis, man.
Well, the first, yeah, it is.
It is.
Thank you very much.
At first, it sounded weird to me, like a peanut butter Hefeweizen, because I'd never had one, and I was like, it sounds like it'd be great, but it's kind of weird. I've never had one
As long
before.
as
You
you're
know
making
what
a good half and it's got that banana clove flavor.
Have you ever had a fried peanut butter and banana sandwich? That like what Elvis had?
Yeah, that's what
like
he used to
everybody
eat.
says he had peanut butter and banana sandwiches,
Yeah.
but they were fried. He made them like a grilled cheese
Right,
sandwich.
put honey on.
Like
No.
butter the bread and dude, try it sometime. It'll
Yeah.
blow your mind.
I mean, I've had peanut butter.
Bacon or something crazy.
yeah.
I did peanut butter, banana, and honey sandwiches, but I don't fry them. You know what I'm saying? Like
Fry that,
just like
fry
regular
that shit,
soft white
man.
bread.
Fry that shit.
That doesn't sound bad at all.
How can you go wrong by putting butter on something and throwing it on a skillet? I mean, it only makes it better.
Yep. All right, let's dig into the Gnome, man. We got to ask him some questions since he's here, and I'll probably jump off on the next section when you get Ben on here. So there's some questions on here I wanted to ask you, and I mean, seriously, you are the. I mean, I've been listening to you for I don't even know how long. You know what I mean? Your podcast. I've said it before. I know you've seen my posts. Like I learned half of my beer knowledge of Cincinnati is from listening to your podcast. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
you cover everyone, and we were talking about it earlier. I don't know how the fuck you do it, man. It's like all the breweries that you hit up. But one of the things we did when we the first episode we recorded, it was at the Party Tree. So it's not really well known to people that aren't from the area we're from. It's at
The party tree? Okay.
so we should all party at the party tree sometime.
Yeah.
It's in a nature preserve. It's like a mother tree, and
It's right
we've all.
across the street from Sycamore High School.
Hey,
Yeah.
Bobby or Twitty, come on, man. Those that know, man. We don't want them tramping our little trails out, man. Come on, shit.
You're never gonna find it.
Well, we sat down on a log and we recorded, but kind of as an ode to local brewery podcast, we cracked open a Big Sis. I got a crowler of that. You know what I mean? So definitely wanted to hit that with you. You know what I mean? Tell how, talk about Mike, man, and like tell the story. I mean, I know you've done this a bunch of times, but there might be some new people tuning into this.
Yeah, sure. When I kind of backed my way into both the blog and the podcast and all of that. The blog, I always kept notes about stuff. This was. Untapped was probably around, but people weren't really using it the way they do now. It was. I like to keep notes on what I was drinking, what breweries were doing, just anything. That's just kind of the way I always have been. But it started to bother me that there weren't any blogs locally. There were a lot of blogs, but not that did everything. They kind of focused on this and focused on that. There wasn't just one spot you could go to get everything. And even my website's not even close to that yet. It's it's a long process to try to do that. But if you want to find out about the history of a place, if you want to see what they're pouring right now, what the latest news from, I want all of that in one spot. That's kind of the maybe it's OCD, I don't know, but I'd want it all there. So that just kind of happened into starting to build it because it didn't exist.
Right.
The podcast was a whole different thing. I had already started blogging. I've been blogging for like a year or so, and was sitting in a tap room at the bar, and there was a guy sitting there, and I was wearing an Old Firehouse hat or shirt or something, and he said, we were at Mount Carmel, and he was like, "Oh, yeah, Old Firehouse, I haven't been there," and I said, "Oh, it's just, where do you live?" And he's like, "Oh, I just live across the street there." He's like, "So I just always come here." And so it's 20 minutes down the road, like just go there. Like you gotta check these places out, and he was like, "Yeah, I guess I really need to get out there." And then we started talking about new breweries and things that were going on. And
when was this? What year was this?
It was like 2015, 16, something like that.
Okay.
So it was in the middle of kind of things really starting to burst open and lots of places opening up. And
so the beginning of everything started from a conversation being bellied up.
Absolutely, everything does.
That's all good things.
He asked how I knew so much about what was going on locally, and I said, "Oh, I do this blog thing," and he's like, "You do?" And I said, "Yeah," and he's like, "Can I give you my email address? I gotta email you about something." I said, "Sure." And so we started corresponding the next day, and he sent me this big outline of this show that he had planned, this podcast. None of us knew anything about podcasting. It was 2015. There wasn't, a lot of podcasting wasn't what it is now.
Sure.
And he had this outline for this, almost like a sports radio show with these different segments and correspondence and this whole it's really cool the way it's written out. And we started talking about it, and I said, if we want to do this, I was like, just do it. Let's just get together, record something, figure out how to get it on the internet, and just make it.
Right.
And so like a week later, we were all sitting around his dining room table with a portable recorder sitting right in the middle, just drinking beers, and we made a show.
Did he have it already named?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
He had Cincy Brewcast, the voice of Cincy Craft, was the tagline. Put your ear where your beer is, I think was the other tagline that he had.
I like that.
He had everything down to like the different, like from the beer fridge is our drinking segment we still do.
Beer fridge.
He had all of those segments right now. From the beer fridge, a beer school, this week in beer, lightning, or we had all these different segments
It's
like
great
that, all
branding
planned out.
because as soon as you said from the beer fridge,
You hear it.
the beat kicked in my head.
So it was everything was planned out. It was his idea. So we just started doing it, and over time it started to evolve. It wasn't long before we went to our first brewery to do one. I think it was maybe like our 4th episode, something like that. Might have been longer than that, and we set up and did a remote show, and then Periscope was starting to become big at that time, so live streaming. I said, man, why don't we figure out how to live stream this thing? You know, we can just run a feed right from the mixer right into somebody's phone, and then we can live stream it.
Yeah.
So we did, and we would get a decent amount of people each week that would just tune in to listen live.
Right.
In addition to the people that were downloading the podcast, so it just kept growing and kept turning into different things and evolving. He passed away. That's the shittiest part of the story of sure. Mike, and I just kept going with the show, and then it became my show.
Yeah.
And
what did you say? Like after you recorded as many as you guys did together,
yeah,
it felt like okay, it's kind of my show.
It was weird for like that first year or so after he passed away, of trying to do the show, trying to make sure I'm doing it in the way that he wanted the show done, the sound of the show, the feeling of the show.
Yeah.
And then there was, when I started doing the math and I started looking at like, man, I got like 3 more episodes and I've done more without him than I have with him.
That's crazy.
And at that point I was like, this is, if I'm going to keep this going for ever, which is I guess the idea.
Right.
It's got to keep evolving. It's got to be my thing. So not that it's changed that much.
What was the first year of Big Sis? Like how?
The first year was right. So we always did a charity event in December, like around Christmas.
Uh-huh.
We had been talking about doing one already, and he passed away I think in August, something like that. So I said, well, why don't we, we got together with a few different people who kind of started talking about it. He said, why don't we take this charity idea, this event, and do it for Mike? Just kind of in his memory.
Yeah.
And so he said, why don't we get somebody to make a beer? That's a fun idea. So we just sent out an email to as many people.
Great way to pay homage, man.
Yeah, sent as many people as we could and said, hey, we want to make a beer. Does anybody want to help us? And they all said yes. And so we all got together, drank a few beers, talked about it, got together again, drank some more beers, talked about it, sure. And then got together and brewed the beer. And it has now become, which fun part for me is that it's now the biggest local collaboration that's been done in this city.
Really cool.
Even aside from the Cincy Beer Week stuff, where every brewery in the city was collaborating. Yeah. There's so many breweries now that even if we get a small chunk of local breweries to collaborate on this thing, it's bigger than those were. Like you're talking 18 breweries is the biggest one that we've had.
Wow.
And everybody just gets together and just hangs out, drinks a few beers, shoots the shit, talks about Mike. Some of the people never met Mike, never knew the guy, and they've just kind of ended up in this because of the community aspect of it, and it's a great way to continue his memory.
The brewing community here is amazing, man. Like,
it's
just
incredible.
The more people I meet, I'm just like, man, this is just, everybody's cool as shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
And Big Sis was awesome this year. Like, I never had a tropical stout before.
The beer rotates every 2 years. It stays at a brewery for 2 years and then goes somewhere else for 2 years and then goes somewhere else for 2 years. So it just keeps kind of hopping around town, different people. You can put your own spin on it. It was a Pilsner originally, but there's been other styles that have kind of come and gone with it. And this year's was a super hoppy, dark stout, man. It was awesome.
And I mean, has anyone else done a tropical stout? Have you had that before then? I never had that style.
I've had some. There's I've never had one that was like that though. It kind of sat in between a stout and maybe a black IPA.
Right.
It was different.
Narrow Path has a tropical, the Caribbean
Narrow Path
stout.
has one. Braxton had one from. I've seen theirs for a long time, but yeah. But theirs was it was very different than what this one was. There's a few around. I think the traditional, I guess, example, I think is Lion Stout out of I don't know where, out Asia somewhere. I think.
For real?
Is kind of I think.
That's such
I could be completely wrong on
That's
that.
a cool way to pay respects to one of your boys. You know what I mean? Like having a beer every year coming out and everybody's collaborating. That's really It's dope, man. It's touchy.
Well, it's the act of getting together with people,
Right.
cracking open beers, making a beer, just shooting the shit. Like that's what it's all about. And
Hell yeah, man. That's why we're here.
Yeah, kind of like what we're doing right now, you know?
It's hard, I think, for breweries to do that sometimes because
Sure, they're so busy.
You get so caught up in the day-to-day and just keeping the machine running that sometimes you forget what got you into it.
So we got some terminologies that we use on this podcast. One of them is called Brunicorn. And Brunicorn is your favorite beer you've ever had.
Okay.
Do you have one of those? Out of all the beers you've tasted?
No, it's hard to pick one.
Like if you were stuck on an island and you got to pick one beer to be forever supplied.
Yeah, I mean that wouldn't necessarily be my favorite beer though, because I very seasonal or
That's true.
Experiential drinker. So like I want something that kind of fits that vibe, and I think that's like I remember experiences around beers more than I remember the actual beer itself. It's hanging out, like you said, sitting around a party tree with your friends, drinking a beer out of a crowler with them. That might be the best beer of your life because of how you're doing it. Versus
the situation that you're in, where you're at. Right.
You could drink the same beer, and if you're drinking it on the couch by yourself watching the Bengals lose, it's not going to taste as good. Whereas if you're
tastes good at the party tree.
If you're sitting around a tree, maybe
most
it tastes
of the
better.
beers you're drinking watching the Bengals are going to end up tasting that damn good.
It's medicinal.
What's your favorite style of beer?
I'll say it's kind of a cop out, but I'll say lagers right now. I love lagers. I think there's a lot of fun stuff being done with lagers now. People are getting excited about it again.
Yeah.
But I'll drink anything. I love all kinds of beer, man.
Have you been down to Rebel Metal?
Of course. Yeah.
How do you like them? I mean, they got that's all lager focused, man.
Yeah, they've got some great stuff. They
just released one too.
Oh, they just did a real goofy one too. It's like a 12%.
A 12%.
Cascadian dark. Yeah, Cascadian dark lager. I'm so curious. It's completely made up style that they just invented. It's fun.
Lager.
Yeah.
I had a taste of that the other day when I was down there. They let me taste it. It does not taste like a 12% beer. I was like, dude, somebody's going to get in trouble. You might kick somebody out because of this.
12% lager. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's unheard of.
It looks like a stout.
Oh, yeah.
It's
it does.
thick and dark. Yeah.
It's dark.
So this one might be something. I'm not even sure about this question with you.
Okay.
It might be something you don't want to answer, but I've heard you talk about something on your podcast before.
Okay.
Did you get banned from somewhere? Or
Oh
something?
yeah. I am.
You don't go into it ever. You just kind of refer to it.
I did a whole episode on it.
Did you? I haven't heard that one.
Over
I gotta go
at Fig Leaf back in volume 5, something like that. It was in the summer. I could pull notes and tell you what episode it was, but so I had this idea. It's been like 3 years now. At the time, there were 36 local breweries, maybe. Mm-hmm. And I like going to local breweries, and I got this idea in my head that wouldn't it be cool if you went to every local brewery on the same day? And I'm like, is it possible? And I started trying to figure it out, and it was tough. I'm not going to say it's impossible now because I want to do it.
You'd have to have a sip at every one.
And that's the thing. It was my rule was, you have to you get to every brewery, you have to drink whatever their smallest serving size is. So if it's a place that does not serve samples or like tasters, if all you can drink is a pint, that's all I'm drinking. Because I didn't want to just cheat, walk in, drink an ounce, turn around, and walk out the door.
Right.
It broke down to I think I couldn't be at any one stop for more than 15 minutes. I had 3 different drivers throughout the day, because it was a long day. We started at
So you did
started
this?
it doesn't end well.
Was
It doesn't
an
end well. It started at 8 a.m. and ended at 2 a.m. To get to all of them, and we ended our day at a Hofbrauhaus and walked in the door 9 minutes after last call. And I walked up to the bartender, man, I just need taster size. I just need, drink it, I'm gone. I'm like, beer garden's full of people still. I promise you I'm going to be gone way before any of them are, and then there's people with multiple, liters of beer still.
Yeah.
Couldn't get served because it was after last call. On the way out the door, started talking to a couple that was sitting along the fence in the beer garden, and he's like, dude, if I just drink my beer down to the last sip, I'll just hand it to you, and you can just, chug. It's got some backwash in it, but then you can at least say you had a beer here.
Right.
And I said, man, that's a great idea. Well, it's not a great idea. There were a couple cops that are always on duty there at Hofbrauhaus because of some of the problems that they have.
Does this end with an arrest?
It does end with an arrest.
Oh, shit.
Cops come over and they say, man, you can't, I'm standing on the sidewalk. He's like, you can't, drink his beer standing on the sidewalk. And I say, you're right, man, we won't. And I said, thank you. And he's like, well, you guys need to go ahead and go. And I said, what do you mean? And he's like, you got to go. And I said, well, we're standing on the sidewalk, man. There's two of us, because I had a guy, doing some video stuff for me at the time. And I said, we're not impeding traffic on the sidewalk.
Right.
We're having a conversation with these guys. Like, I don't think you can really tell me to go. I'm going to give you the count of three. Count of three till what? 3, 2, 1. Grabbed me, put me in handcuffs, and took me to jail.
No shit. Did you get the sip?
No, I did not get the sip.
Oh, damn.
So I made it to every local brewery in one day. I did not have a drink at every local brewery in one day. So
are you
the
banned
police,
from there?
so the police on the police report, they write it all up and tell me that I am banned from every Hofbrauhaus.
What?
I don't know how
There's
the
only
Newport.
one in the United States.
There's a lot in the United States
Is
now.
there?
Oh, yeah, there's a couple,
There's, but the way they worded it, I'm banned from all of them in the world, I think, according to the Newport Police Department.
Oh, that's
So yeah, so I'm still technically banned from Hofbrauhaus.
How many times have you been back?
None. No, I haven't been back. I have not touched.
You're not going to risk it?
Off the record, how many times have you?
I seriously, I've not. There was some other stuff afterwards with some of their employees or people that work with them, kind of spreading some shit online that kind of pissed me off too. That didn't really have a desire to go back at that point. But
That's a great story, dude.
For the record, I think you probably did have a beer at every local brewery because I don't technically consider them
and that
a
was
local brewery.
That's kind of the way around it.
There you go.
Well, you did it.
They do. I guess they actually do brew their
they-
beer in that facility.
Yeah, they
so
brew
It's
there.
brewed
It's
locally,
brewed
but it's not a
locally, but it's
local
not
brewery.
right. It's not a locally
Right.
owned brewery.
Right.
So what are your feelings? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's pause. We got to get last call in here. We'll be right back. Get back on there, Bobby. Let me make sure we're... All right, we're recording. Well, that sucks you didn't get to get your podcast in, brother.
It's all right. It'll work out, I think.
I'm recording. I'll edit this out, but you can talk a lot of shit right now if you want to.
There's not a lot of places that are a pain in the ass to work with like that, but yeah, they're proving to be a little difficult.
I did.
Montgomery Public House.
Oh, weird. I wonder why.
They just keep canceling on me and rescheduling, and then
That's one of
messing
the-
up the date and then rescheduling.
That's one of the ones that's really close to me that I don't get to as much as I probably should. You know what I mean? They got a really good Hefeweizen there that I like, yeah. And it's not far from my house. I just feel I'm scared of Montgomery, man. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to get fucking pulled over.
Oh, the cops played over there. See, I grew up in like Deer Park area, so I'm like, I wasn't far from there.
Really?
Yeah, and I used to. When I was living over there, I frequented Montgomery a ton. Obviously, BC's Montgomery. I never seemed to have a problem, but I mean, it's been a few years since I've done that too. So
I don't know. It just seems like such a little proper town.
sure,
You know what I mean?
It's like a small town feel with like
they're-
almost too many cops kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like there's a bunch of cops with one bullet in their gun.
Right.
I don't know, man. So there's never trouble in Montgomery.
Right.
Although when I was
Except for
young,
Village Tavern.
I was about to say,
That was-
man, when I was a kid, holy shit. There's
Place is
literally
always like the rowdy joint, you know?
right,
Yeah.
man. I remember my stepbrother's a couple years older than me, and it was always we always said, man, if you get too fucked up, just call. We'll come get you.
Sure.
I picked him up from Village Tavern, at 2 a.m. so many times.
Just wrecked.
Like he doesn't even remember where his car is. Like man, let's get all your shit out of your car. He's like, I don't even know where it's at. And he's done the same for me, honestly.
Sure,
From
sure.
Village Tavern, that place, that and like.
That place will get the best of you. I've been in there with some friends. Like, I'll have two, 3 beers or whatever, and like, I'm fucking Ubering home. You know,
Right.
Like,
Well, Shady O'Grady's was another one. Like,
oh God.
we'd go in there.
What's that street that goes that street goes up the hill right past it? I forget the name. My buddy lives off of that street, so anytime we go to his place, we walk down the hill, go to Shady O'Grady's. That place is a mess too.
It's
man.
like as soon as the door closed behind you, you were lost.
Yep, you're
it
done.
was
You're
over
done.
with. It's
Yeah,
dark
like a
in there.
black hole, exactly.
They
yeah.
always have some good bands
Yeah,
too. Like
yeah.
I ended up getting sucked in over
The
there.
back patio was great too. It was like outside. It was,
Yeah.
We used to
And that-
remember the Pilot Inn that was around the corner.
We,
over by the railroad tracks.
The what?
The Pilot Inn. That's in Norwood,
Hyde
isn't it?
Park or Hyde Park Norwood. Yeah.
Yeah.
There
Like
was a
Brookwood.
bar that was like down the road from Shady's,
Really?
where it split in the railroad tracks.
Oh, Remington Tavern. Remington. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, or something like that.
You
Yeah.
can take that off, dude. Go ahead, get mic'd up, buddy. I'm gonna make sure your levels are all good. This is pretty good, man.
Where's Miller? Is he still looking for beers?
You know he is.
I think he's finally got something. Well, he's waiting
Mark.
there at least. I don't know he's doing.
Dude, Mark's a guy. Like, we did a Brews Traveler trip out to West Virginia. And
I think I remember him posting a bunch of pictures.
yeah, and I'm like, if you guys want me to come, I'll be the designated driver and the tour guide because I know I've been there 100 times.
Sure.
It's a 5.5 hour trip normally to get to the cabin, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we stopped at Hawking. We stopped at Brewery 33. We did Devil's Kettle, Little Fish, and Jackie O's on the way. It took 11.5 hours to get there.
To get to fucking West Virginia.
And I was
Literally, the border is like 3 hours away.
Right. We left at 2:30 in the afternoon and got there at like 1.
I was like, I'm never fucking doing this again. You guys are, and Mark's always, he's talking so much. We ended up at Jackie O's and they were like, we can't pour you anything right now, but you can take something with you. You know what I mean? Like, so we ended up getting like bottles. I brought a big ass cooler to put in the back of the truck. It got filled up so quickly. We had to go buy another cooler at a gas station. I was like, this is fucking ridiculous. I got there at like 1 a.m. and I just started pounding beers, man.
We set all these beers up in the freaking kitchen, like almost like a beer can collection.
I can hear myself pretty good on this too. Like those things are, I've never actually used those.
Brewery 33 is good.
That's in Hocking Hills, right?
Yeah, Nelsonville.
They have one called Mingo Mango.
Oh my god,
It's so good. This one's picking me up good. You can go ahead with that one, man. You're
I went
good.
camping up there with a buddy
Like I'm actually loud on this
a couple
one.
months ago. And we drove past that, did not stop. He's not much of a drinker, so we just kind of hiked around and bullshit. So
Is it Jackie O's coffee, please?
No, Cool Beans.
Cool Beans.
Cool Beans is one of my
Thank you.
favorite blonde coffee. Look at that shit.
That's a beaut, man.
That looks like a fucking dessert.
looks like a ring of a thousand dead
Look at that shit.
Holy
I fucking
shit.
love that slow pour handle in. So
Oh,
That's
impressed.
Beautiful.
not made for a big beer.
Hey, so one of the things before we went to last call, one of the things I wanted to ask you about, and I was talking to Twitty about this before we left. It's Bach season is upon us, and I love Bach beers. Do you? And I've never been anywhere else during Bach season. Do you know? Is it Cincinnati that's just crazy about that shit, or is it everywhere?
Yes. So there's definitely nowhere that does it the way we do, but there are other Bach fests around. They're just way smaller and
Really?
not the amount
have a
of
huge
local
German
breweries
heritage.
making Bach beer.
Huge.
Yeah, because I was like, man, I don't know. I mean, our Bach Fest is off the hook, and I was like, I've had Bachs other places, but I wonder if they throw down as hard as we do.
No way. We're weird.
We are. I always tell people, like, if you
give
like,
us something German to do and we'll run with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Oktoberfest.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was actually
we have the
listening to your-
second biggest Oktoberfest in the world.
Yeah.
This year we were the biggest. This last year because Munich got canceled.
Right.
really? Oh, no shit.
So we kept going with ours,
Right.
sort of.
Let's take
Didn't-
that
default.
claim.
Yeah,
Take
we,
that claim.
we
Yeah.
took it
Yeah.
this year.
But yeah, I was actually on my way here. I was listening to your podcast on Bachfest and
Yeah.
on the Bach beer and stuff.
Yeah, I just didn't know.
It's huge in Cincinnati. I mean,
I tell people like when I'm out of town and like if I'm drinking a Bach or somebody likes it, I'm like, dude, if you like Bach beers, like you should travel to Cincinnati, not let alone for the beer scene, but like if you want to see some weird, crazy shit, man, like we do not, like it's the weirdest festival you've ever seen. Like you're gonna be blown away on the first day by the parade.
Yeah, the parade, the strangeness of the parade, coupled up with the fact that you're celebrating a beer style that nobody knows anything about. Nobody even knows where the name really came from. I mean, it's an argument in itself. It's such a fun thing. And
me and my wife one year did the Bachfest run or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was like, I remember thinking like, we're in trouble because we just ran 5 miles or whatever. And I had already ate a Skyline cheese coney and had 2 beers. And it was 9:30 in the morning. I was like, it was packed everywhere. I was like, didn't you motherfuckers, aren't any of you hungover from last night? Like, where are all these people coming? Like, you got your outfits still on? Like, did you sleep in the alley? Like, what the hell's going on?
That mini race they do, it's like a quarter of a mile.
It's not even that long. It's like a city block or something.
I would have loved to have done that one.
You get free beer at the end.
Right. Shit, I'll run a quarter mile for free beer.
Right.
I'm not doing a 5K though.
We have a new voice with us.
Go ahead. Do your intro.
Introduction. This is Ben Comer. He works here at BC Bottlelodge, and he comes from a long heritage of quality beer people. Anybody that grew up in the Deer Park, Kenwood area is going to know a Comer because he used to work at Lucky's drive-thru, and then your brother Jeff, for the longest time, worked at the Root Cellar.
Yep.
So
I love that place.
Anybody that lives in the Deer Park, Kenwood area that drinks good beer is going to know a Comer.
Do you have a nickname? We all use nicknames.
I don't.
You don't?
My dad always called me Herman.
Herman?
I don't even want to say what your dad called me.
He still calls me that.
I know, I'm sure he does.
So also, backstory, I've known Mark like my entire life.
Right.
Literally.
And that's why we're here rather than Montgomery.
Yes,
Right.
that's why
Mark
we came
set it
up here. Yes,
exactly.
specifically. I was like, we got to do this. We got to do it with Ben. So I don't know if I've ever told you this story, but even your oldest brother, Jason, has a little history with craft beer because in 1992, we were on our way to Alaska. And I don't know if he did this by choice because I was driving and he really had no choice. But we went to every brewery in the state of Montana in 1992. And now at the time, I think there was 4.
Did you say 1892?
Yeah, 1892.
You guys are a lot older than I thought.
I didn't get this gray overnight.
And you guys hit every one?
Every one.
There was probably 3 then.
It was, I think, 4, yeah. I mean, it was like easy because there's like, and it was cool because they're all in like Bozeman and Missoula and all these really cool.
I was about to say, it's a huge
towns.
state, man. Like,
You didn't end up in jail at the end?
No.
So that's impressive.
there's no speed limits out there either. Like,
Well, back in 1982, you probably you were driving Buzz. The cop was like, "Get home." Right. You know what I mean? Like,
if you ran into a cop.
82, I was 12. That was 92.
1992. Okay. Yeah.
That's awesome.
How times have changed.
So let's talk about the venue, Mark. You got all the questions about.
First of all, this BC Bottlelodge is 7121 Liberty Center Drive. It's basically Cincinnati Dayton Road 129, like right off of 75 you mentioned earlier.
It's the original too, right?
Yes. And the Montgomery location is where the old Buddy Rogers used to be.
Oh, no shit. I didn't know that.
That's not going to mean something to everybody, but any musician's going to know what I'm talking about.
That's like saying Sam Goody.
They took a lot of my money at both locations.
Yes, absolutely. That one's great too.
Back in the day.
That one's a little bigger, and they've got outdoor seating and stuff.
Yeah, that one's literally, we're about 2,000 square feet. They're about 4,000 square feet.
Okay.
Not including the patio. Yeah, that's just like inside space. So.
Yeah. Me and my wife have pulled up there and just drove away during COVID because there was like a band outside, and I was like, holy shit, it's packed in there, man. Like, this is weird. I don't want to go in. It's crazy in there. Like, that's a big ass venue. Like, even when you walk in, you can't tell anything on both of these because the windows are so tinted.
The worst part is that the parking lot can be packed, but everyone drove themselves, and you walk in and it feels empty.
Yeah.
Because it's so big. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's
There's like 8 people in there.
Right.
And 8 cars takes up a lot of spots out there.
Now, we were talking earlier about if you're coming to a new city or if you're coming from out of town to Cincinnati, how this is a great place to start.
Yeah.
Like, roughly how many of you've got 24 taps plus a slow tap? Roughly how many of those tend to be local beers?
So we keep each board, so the left board is always local, and we say local, but it's local to Ohio. So it's Cleveland to Cincy. So anything that's going to be on the left board is going to be Ohio local. Anything on the right board is going to be more regional. Sometimes those locals leak onto the right side, and vice versa, depending on how things have to get tapped and what we have in the back and things like that. But it's generally 12 local beers at any given time. Plus the slow pour, we generally keep something local unless we get like an import. So it's always some sort of lager, whether it be a local lager. If it's not a local lager, we try to get like a German style, a Czech style, something along those lines where it's like we try to keep it traditional and just classic stuff is what we try to keep on that slow pour. So.
What's up with the slow pour? I'm not even hip to that. Like
it's a slow pour, side pull. It's just the way it is. It's most beer taps, you are supposed to keep the beer about 2 inches, the glass about 2 inches away from the tap. This thing you stick all the way up in there, pour it. You're looking for the head.
Right.
Like you want a good.
Obviously.
You want a good inch or two of head out of the glass. I mean, the glass is made for that.
Dude, that was beautiful.
I've never seen
on
the top of the glass. That's 16 ounces. The rest of that needs to be head for that to be like proper
true
pour style
pint.
stuff.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So. And it's just fun. It's got a little screen in it that filters the beer, so it aerates the shit out of it when you pour it. Again, traditional taps, you want them either all the way open or all the way closed, or you get nothing but foam. But on this one, you kind of leak it and like milk that foam out of there and get that. Get that
There's all kinds of goofy techniques too. I've seen people talking about to get different types of.
So funny enough, Caleb had when we first installed it. We're like, all right, we don't want to tap a beer and like fuck this entire keg up, right? Like and just make it all foam and get a ton of waste. He had he got a super deal on a keg of like Coors Banquet or something that he had at home forever. So he brought that half a keg in here and we went through that thing just playing
around with it.
Yeah.
Well, like there's
learning how to pour.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's different orders. Like when you go, over to Europe and you see that more often. There's different things that people order, and I don't know what the names of them are, but like you can get one that's like all foam.
Yeah.
And that's a thing that people order, and there's.
And you'll sit there for half an hour to hour to wait for that foam to turn into beer, and that's when you drink it. Like that's how they'll do it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
crazy.
It
almost mimics like an old school beer engine in a sense, like the way that you get that foam and it comes out real aerated and stuff. I mean, it's obviously not the same, but it almost mimics that old school beer engine kind of style.
It's just it's fun.
Yes.
It's people get really stuck up about beer sometimes, and we all do it as beer nerds. Sometimes you get a little too stuck up. This brings it back to just that act of sitting down and drinking and just having fun with it. It's a
conversation thing, right? Yeah.
Is that? Do you have a slow pour at each location, or just up here?
So
okay, just up here.
They have those 4 extra taps over there, but they at Montgomery, they decided to do. They sell a little bit more wine than we do, and it's just their clientele. So they decided to do 3 wines, and then we have a nitro cold brew coffee.
Gotcha. So who picks what comes in here? Like how does that process happen?
Realistically, we're working on a skeleton crew as it is. There's no real employees. It's myself and Caleb. I'm the manager of this location. Kenny and Brian over the other location.
Yeah.
Kenny's the manager over there. So it's
Kenny's
like
cool.
whoever's here. I mean, it's like we, reps come in, they drop samples. There's a lot of times there's like styles that we know that we need, so we try to fill that gap and things like that.
Sure.
You never say that Kenny is cool on a recorded podcast.
Yeah,
he gets really full of himself.
Yes.
So Kenny's a little bit lame.
Right.
Whatever, I'll tell Kenny.
Kenny's the worst. Love you, Kenny.
he's always cool as shit to me when we come in there.
Kenny's a great dude, man.
What's the question, Mark? Who do you think is putting out the best beers consistently locally, like Cincinnati locally?
Wow. That's a good question, man. Because I mean, realistically, I think at any given time, I think, in my opinion, every brewer around here does something super well.
Yeah.
If I were to pick a favorite right now, and this is just based off of what I've been drinking lately and the stuff that I'm kind of craving, I think Westside is absolutely crushing it, man. They do these super traditional beers.
Yeah.
And
True
they
to
do them
form,
so well.
true to
man.
style.
Like,
I guess solid.
yeah.
I like the porter.
They do a double IPA that they literally just call Dippa on the can, and it's fucking awesome. It's super hoppy. It's still got that malt balance. It's like a nice little bit of sweetness to it, and it's amazing. They do a milk stout that they just call milk stout, and they nail it. It's almost like an English style because it's got some like roasty bitterness to it, but it's amazing.
Yeah.
And anytime we put one of their beers on tap, and I think in the world that we live in now with beer, where everything's you mentioned this before. It's like, hey, why is there donuts and everything, right? Like that's like, why is that? Like I get it, and I get the style, and I get that sells. But like in a world that we're living in, where like every IPA is hazy and every stout is heavily adjunct, and it's like you can't even get a brown ale without it having hazelnuts in it or something, right? like
Had one last night at Third Eye.
I think I just crave that those like traditional styles, like something old school. I've been doing this since I've literally been working with beer since 2006.
Right.
And it's that's what got me into it, and now that's what I crave. And I like the hazy stuff, I like the adjunct stuff, but it's that's the stuff that brought me into beer, and that's what I love about it. So.
It's almost flipping though too. Like those.
I think we're on that trend.
Traditional styles are starting to become trendy.
Yes.
And like the donut cereal, Lucky Charms beers
right.
are becoming almost normal now.
Yeah.
And so like
You're
it's,
right.
Yeah, an imperial stout that doesn't have anything in it. Like that's what I want.
I don't like hazelnut, coconut, this
give
shit.
me
this
big,
and that
big
there. And I'm
roasty,
like,
boozy
just give me a
without.
fucking stout.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't have to be this hazelnut pineapple stout.
Sure.
Whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Motherfucker, you just drank this pineapple and you were
It
looking
was
like
good. but the thing
And I
is,
get that stuff's great.
but
That stuff is
IPAs,
awesome.
I will not. I don't like IPAs.
well,
You know, they're
I'm
not
getting
for
better.
It's a preference, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's
You
funny?
were in the minority here in Cincinnati, though, my friend. Like, holy shit, we are hop driven.
I'm
When I was in
I
my
like-
20s, I loved IPAs, and I just don't drink them anymore. I mean, I still drink them. Like, if I go to a brewery, I generally get a flight or two and try everything because I want to know what's going on.
Right.
You know, but that's just not where my palate is right now. You know, it changes, it evolves. As I'm drinking a double Belgian, I tend to gravitate towards darker beers. It's just where I'm at.
I'm going towards sours now for some reason. I can't even fucking believe it. Like, I never liked them. And
I
now
had one last night.
sometimes
That's really good.
sometimes it's fun just kind of keeping your palate guessing too. Like the thing that you aren't really that into, like as soon as like it starts to make that turn a little bit where you start to enjoy it, you go nuts for it because you haven't been drinking.
Like, holy
it's
shit,
exciting
this is
and it's
new,
fun.
yeah.
And
Right.
it's like it's always that quest for new taste
I almost try to
experiences.
mess my palate up when
Yeah.
I notice I'm getting stuck on something, and it's like there was a minute there when I was drinking nothing but like imported like lagers and pilsners, and that's all I was drinking. I'm like I get why I'm doing that because that's what I'm digging right now. But then I'll pull a lambic out of the basement just to see like what the fuck's going on.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That's when it's time to pull out a lamp.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and just mess it up, and then it's fun to do. But that's what's fun about beer, right? Like that's my favorite part of it. Is,
And I personally do like a lot of the explorations, like, you know, some of the, you know, we were talking earlier how much we all like peanut butter in beer, but, you know, like, there was one I almost grabbed over there, it was a red velvet cake stout, you know, and those kind of things, they can be really good, you know. Sometimes they're over the top, overly sweet, overly just too much of a flavoring or something, but when somebody can do something like that and make it well balanced, it's beautiful.
Well, sometimes it's fun to come into a place like this and say you wanna mix up a 6-pack from the cooler, and what red ales do you guys have? I want all the red ales, and you fill up your thing with red ales, and you go home, and that's all you drink that night or that weekend, and you just dive into it and figure out what you like, what you don't like, and then maybe the next week it's like stouts. It's a stout weekend. I'm gonna load up on a bunch of stouts, and like it's fun, and like you got to remember that this is supposed to be like fun.
And it kind of reminds you of how diverse even something within a red ale can be. Because you're going to get tons of different flavor profiles just out of a 6-pack, mixing that 6-pack of red ales.
Yeah.
none of them will be the same.
No.
It's crazy too. Like when I listen to you, especially on Prost, when you're breaking down beer flavors, like you can call out hops and shit. Like that blows my mind.
Sometimes I cheat and I have notes.
Do you?
I take notes on a lot of stuff. I'm not that good at picking out hops.
Tell us that.
I can pick out Simcoe because it always tastes like cat piss.
There's
to me.
like 3 hops that I can pick out. And other than that, it's like I'm winging it. Yeah. But there's 3 very significant flavors that I can pick out. Simcoe being one of them for sure. Yeah.
That's what people like. I'll be like, man, this one's good. Have you tried it? And they're like, well, what's it taste like? And I'm like, tastes like a Hefeweizen, man. You know, like what do you want me to say about it? I don't know, man. I don't know how to describe the flavors in there. You know, bananas. It tastes like bananas or whatever.
But force yourself sometimes when you sit down to try to put into words what you're tasting with something.
Yeah.
Because it does make it easier to communicate to people what it is that you're
I
experiencing.
do got to get better
even
at
for
that.
yourself.
You kind of do that when you're on Untapped. I mean, because it's asking for, I don't know if you do that section, but it's got the flavor profile section. So if you know, I always break it down and like try to make a point of marking the flavors that I find in there.
Yeah, I totally skip right over that.
I always I don't always do it on Untapped, but like the little thing where you click the little guys, but like there's always a conscious thing in my head when I'm drinking something, especially for the first time, like what is it that I'm tasting? And then after I think I've picked apart everything I can find in that beer, then I go in and I start reading what other people are saying about it. And somebody will say, "Oh man, I get nuts," and I'm like, "I don't taste any nuts in there."
Right?
Yeah, I do. Like now I taste nuts, and like yes, there's definitely some kind of nuttiness there.
It's almost like you need that buzzword.
Yeah, but it's fun. Like what did I miss that other people picked up on?
That's what's fun about. We were talking earlier how one of our podcasts was sitting in his garage, and we all bring 3 or 4 beers and a bunch of little glasses and jug for.
I use my years of beer fest sample glasses.
Yep. And
stop at the root cellar and pick up a 6-pack.
When you have like 5 people sitting around trying a beer like that, we're all going to taste it a little bit differently.
So much fun to see how other people perceive it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you usually get fucked up pretty quick doing that. You know what I mean? You're sitting around.
Crazy how 4 ounces of beer gets you so turned like real fast.
Right.
You're trying about like 6 or 7 different ones within 2
Well,
hours.
the thing is, too, these guys have never been to a beer fest, and I'm like, you guys got to come with me, man. Like, it's me and my wife, it's our favorite holiday of the year. Like, we always call off on that Friday. We've switched from Saturday to Friday because it got just too big on Saturdays. But I was like, it's my favorite.
I like those that they switched and they started doing the 2 early shifts.
Yeah.
Because those are not nearly as gnarly as like the Friday night, Saturday night stuff.
Is it really? I got to try
the
Saturday.
day shifts are great. Yeah. Like Saturday day shift. It's
Saturday from like
day drinking. Something like that. Exactly. Yeah.
I always hear that.
Passed out.
That people run out though, even on Saturday day. Like certain
it
things
depends on how
tap out.
Friday goes for sure. Yeah, it can. But I think anymore most people come fairly prepared. For stuff like that.
Dude, I love it. You guys got to come. You got to come one year. I know it's not going to be this year, but
honestly, are you going to know the difference if somebody runs out of something because there's still hundreds of beers to try?
Well, I get kind of nerdy. Like I've got certain friends that aren't into beer, but they'll drink ciders and stuff. So I I get a little map and I highlight the ones, and I'd make a little note for her and put it in her pocket so she knows where she can go to. You know what I mean? But I do highlight like the maps, and there's like certain beers that I want to try. Like I get hyped up. Like that's nerdy as fuck. But
yes, I do it too. When you have to make sure you get there early. Like like these are my first 5
so your
stops.
palate's not bloating.
And then after that, it doesn't matter what I taste because it's all it's all the same anyways.
Then you end up doing silent disco and doing some Queen on karaoke, sounding like an asshole.
Right. Screaming John Denver at the top of your lungs.
Country roads.
It's 3 o'clock.
There's so little about that is different than a normal Saturday for me.
Right, that's hilarious, man. What's your favorite non-local brewery that comes through here? Like, I know you guys are heavy on Rockport right now. Like, their milkshake IPA.
Oh, it's Rochester Mills, yeah.
Or Rochester Mills, sorry.
So we just they do that. They're out of Michigan. They do that 12 pack of the milkshake stouts that they do for Christmas.
Yeah, and you get all
so
of
it's
them.
like 12. Yeah. So we literally, when they were brand new this year, we have all 12 of them in the back, and we've just been rotating. We've used those 2
Oh, for real? Okay.
We've just been rotating through all of them.
You know who busted that out was BB Skippercorn.
BB Skippercorn, yeah.
Yeah, he was like talking about those I think he went through them pretty quick, but
Shout out to Adina Distributing for bringing that stuff into town,
real.
man.
Yeah.
Bringing some great beer in.
Oh yeah, I mean, I had some. I was such a big fan of their milkshake stouts. My local place that I buy craft beer, and I live in Lebanon. They don't have the biggest selection, but they've got the best selection in town.
You get a little gas
They've got
station, the Marist stop?
The Marist stop,
Place
yeah.
is great.
Hello,
Till Luke,
man.
I said, hey, next time you go.
I would definitely do that. I would definitely do that. Love him. but they had a milkshake IPA, and I'm like, okay, like all those stouts were super solid. I got to try this. That was that pineapple one I brought to the tasting.
Oh, okay. Yep.
It's a beautiful beer. They're making some good stuff.
Yep.
So do you guys think is Cincinnati the destination beer place now? Do you think?
of them.
I think it is
I know
a destination beer place
Asheville
for
is
sure.
obviously one of the big ones. You know what I mean? And
We've been lucky here to have a bunch of especially when you consider like how people kind of find out about beers and things like that. We've been pretty lucky to have a lot of our local guys bring home big medals from like big beer festivals, like
Crazy.
Great American Beer Festival, and it's like
Right.
you did like that's put us on the map. Like if you I don't know if you guys are into like trading beer or anything like that, but Listerman's kind of always been hot, and now that Listerman took home some like FOBAB medals and things like that, like that stuff trades really well. The Brink stuff when they do releases like nationally trade fairly well. I mean, it's like we kind of have some of those
Sought
like
after
hype
beers.
breweries in
Yeah.
a sense now,
Yeah.
and it's because
Well, Narrow
of the
Path
metal
was
they
one
bring
of
up. You know
them.
what I mean? Yeah.
Fretboard won
Yeah.
an award for the
Plaid, yeah.
Narrow Path did
And they
amazing.
just won one for
Pilsner.
Crazy Trade too, which is their Belgian Pale Ale, which is awesome. And it's cool that we're in Cincinnati, and like you think about it, like Brink. What is it? 3 years in a row they won a gold medal for an English style mild.
Yeah.
Yes.
Literally hearing about them at Great American Beer Fest was the reason I visited. You know what I mean?
Sure,
Like it's kind of
yeah.
far from me, and we went there, and one of our terms we talked about with him is a Brunicorn is your favorite beer of all time. My wife loves Damocles. Like,
sick, yeah,
Like
yeah.
we were sitting at
That's
the bar.
super fun beer.
Oh, she loves it. Like we were sitting there at the bar, and all of a sudden I hear her going, "I love you." And I was like, I thought she was talking to me, and I look over, and she's like,
having a beer gasm.
she's like doing this, like.
Yeah, beer gas.
I was like, what the fuck are you drinking, man?
Damn, man.
Oh, they're right.
Oh, the beer. Okay.
Like, have another and get me one. Shit.
Right. Yeah.
I think it's going to be nuts this coming year too, as Brink starts getting those cans out there of their
For sure.
spin. It's
Yeah.
it's going to be nuts. If you go to Brink, I think they use like gold medals as coasters on the bar at this point. They have so
shit.
many
Is
of
it
them.
Isn't Brink
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
Brink's one of the ones that's going to be distributed through Kroger as well, right?
Oh yeah, they're
Did they get a
yeah.
Kroger contract?
Yeah. So
I think they got a lot of them, didn't they?
70 stores.
Shit.
I don't know if I'm supposed to say that out loud, but yeah.
Did you know that?
Wow,
Alexandria
that's
Brewing
huge.
Company's got a Kroger.
That's huge because
account.
I've worked for distributors in beer.
Is it
Yeah,
all
that's
70 local, or are they getting out in the
No,
Midwest?
it's all local as far as I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And normally they'll start you in a radius, but like to have 70 stores from Brink in a radius, that's a
Are
good
there
contract,
70
yeah.
Krogers in Cincinnati?
Oh, there's
Oh, for sure.
Oh,
Easily.
yeah.
Well,
probably
more than
700.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a fairly small footprint in the scheme
Damn.
of things.
Really?
But yeah.
Good for them, man.
I'm gonna have to Google that. That seems like a lot, man. That's nuts.
Every neighborhood needs a
Every
grocery
near-
store,
yeah,
right? I mean,
pretty
if you think
much
about
every
it, yeah.
neighborhood's
Yeah.
got a fucking Kroger's.
Yeah. It's true.
Some of them have two. With it here, we're like close enough to. You know?
Right.
Yeah, shit, I'm dead in the middle of two of them.
Right.
In Blue Ash.
Well, Sharonville.
Yeah.
Blue Ash, Sharonville, Madeira. Did you ever get that one? That one's not far either. Montgomery.
Yeah.
You have 4.
I do. 70 just seems so large, man. Like, that's holy shit.
You have 4 for just Blue Ash, right? So realistically, if you got to think about it,
And
that's
I'm
not
sure
that.
70 probably is large for Brink, is what we were saying at 70.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's a lot. That's gonna be a lot of
Are they
cans, man.
canon, or are they
mass
like
producing, aren't
are they having somebody come in
They're
and can?
contracting. I don't think that they've said who they're contracting with.
Okay.
Yeah, because I heard they were coming out there. I guess they're going to do 16 ounces to start, and then everything else is going to be like 12 pack in box. Like almost like Bell's is doing.
I think
here. Like
it's-
it's going to be like a cardboard box kind of.
I think it's
thing.
6-packs in
Yeah,
boxes.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah.
And then I think they're doing some of this, like the seasonal kind of random ones in the 16s. I think.
How long? I mean, how long have people been contract canning?
Forever.
That seems nuts to me, man.
That's
like,
how. That's
what
how,
a great idea for.
That's how Sam Adams got started. I mean, it wasn't cans; it was bottles. But when Sam Adams started out, they were in a couple different big breweries around the country. Making beer. One of them being Hudipole Shamling here in Cincinnati.
Yep.
Right.
Then when Hudipole folded, they just happened to be in the market for a brewery, and they said, well, Cincinnati, it all makes sense. My dad and my grandpa worked here. This is my place.
Yeah.
By the name brewery.
Even on a bigger scale, didn't Pabst Blue Ribbon contract brewing Miller Coors for the longest time?
Still do, I think.
Do they? Okay, yeah.
Really?
And that's think about that. That's huge scale. They don't. Miller Coors doesn't own PBR. They're still their own thing, but they were producing,
they make their
canning,
beer.
kegging, whatever their beer for them. Yeah.
Well, that probably opens up opportunity for them out west,
Sure. Yeah.
And that's why Cincinnati is a good market for Sam Adams, because we're right in the middle of everything. The majority of the population lives within 5 hours or whatever. I forget if it's 10 hours a year or something.
So the year before COVID, me and my wife went to Asheville for our anniversary. Just hit. We hit up so many breweries in one weekend. I don't know. Where do you guys suggest to go? We're thinking somewhere up in Michigan or maybe Maine, Portland, Maine. What's a good spot, man, where we could go for a weekend and just go nonstop?
You go anywhere in Michigan, you could throw a rock and hit a brewery.
Right.
So that's never a bad idea. Right.
Yeah. Plus, it's probably cheaper. We could just drive up there, but
4 hours away. It's not bad.
It's crazy.
But you get up to Maine Brewing. Yeah. I think I would live there if I ever made it to Maine. I probably wouldn't leave that brewery. I just sit there.
I don't even remember.
I'm thinking
the
the
name
food
of the
up there is
town,
going to be
but
amazing
I was
too.
in Maine on my way. I went to Maine Brewing too, but we were on our way to the national park. We were just looking for something to eat. I'd get out my phone and I'd Google brewery near me because somebody says let's go eat. I'm like, okay, brewery, right? Found this little teeny tiny brewery in this little teeny tiny mountain town called the Liberal Cup. Love that place. I'm constantly getting information from them on Facebook, and I'm like, God, I wish I could go.
Hoping you'll make it back one day.
Right, and it's it's 14 hours away or whatever, but it's still I'm constantly getting information from them.
Yeah,
Great.
that's sweet. Well, I guess that's probably about it, guys. I don't even know what's that number on there. How long we've been going?
3340.
Oh yeah, we're good. So this was a long one, but I think part of the the brewers traveling experience is everything. From going to breweries to doing beer exchange to coming to bottle lodges to, shit, man, you can hit up taps at gas stations now. You know what I mean?
Strange.
And
weird world we live in.
It's freaking amazing here, man.
It's a beautiful world.
Plus, even you were saying, your spot in Lebanon, I've got
station on Fields Erdel Road.
Yeah.
It has 20 taps.
Yeah, dude.
And it's growler station. They have pints. He's got a regular soup. When I worked for a beer distributor, we used to do events there from time to time.
It's a beer club.
Dude,
yeah,
they got a beer club there?
Beer club. The people that are in
the townhouse is right behind that place.
They have a beer club.
They have a regular group of 10 to 15 dudes that are there for every single event they do. They get some random people in there from time to time too, but they're regulars that can walk to the fucking gas station on Fields Erdel. Feed that place.
There's one. There's one in I think it's a Super America right by the 71st Kroger in Cincinnati in Loveland, right off of Ward's Corner back there. There's one right there. I walked in one day to get a pop or something. I was like, fuck, they got 4 taps in here. What's going on?
Just doing growlers, right? Yeah.
But I feel part of our deal here with the podcast is just to kind of explore all those places, sit down with people and drink and talk just like this. Even my marathon there on Plainfield, man, and right next to Summit Park. I love those guys. If I come in looking for something and they don't have it, they're like, "What do you want? What do you want, man?"
And then Moe's marathon on the corner.
And then within a week they got it, man. I'm like, "Thanks,
you ever go
man."
to Shell on the other side of Pfeiffer?
Oh yeah,
That's my family. That's Shell.
Oh, that's right. Okay, that's right. Yeah.
I see his mom in there all the time.
That's funny.
I was hanging out with Mark. He was being an asshole.
That Sunoco's got a good beer selection too. Yeah.
So, but the one thing about
kind of hard
traveling
I used to live on Old
is
Pfeiffer.
that you don't. It doesn't always mean leaving your city and going to another city. Even if you live here in Cincinnati, even if you live in Montgomery and you go to BC's every single weekend and you hang out at BC's Montgomery, just change it up. Take a weekend and come to Butler County and come up here to Liberty and hang out here. Then hit the breweries up here and explore your own city. Traveling is tough right now, and the world is weird, but you don't have to drive to Asheville or Portland, Maine, or anything like that.
Right. You can
there
go
is
to Mount
so
Laurel.
clear.
There's some good breweries in Dayton.
You're 10 to 15 15 minutes from a dope place.
Exactly.
It's like a little outside of your a little outside of your town, and like yeah.
Well, I mean, you might be the exception of this, but I guarantee none of us have been to every brewery in Cincinnati.
Right.
I haven't.
I haven't.
I'm trying really hard, and it's like every time I get close, they open up 3 or 4
trying.
doors.
I was gonna say I had before 3 years ago when like 10 popped up in a month. You know what I mean? So
I have.
So I mean,
If I do, I
you're
do.
right.
If I don't,
just
I'm-
even
no
here,
big deal.
there's plenty of exploring.
There's plenty to do.
I mean, and you don't have to go. I mean, then we've got the Dayton market, which is phenomenal. You know, the Dayton beer scene is fantastic.
Branch and Bone, Fifth Street.
Yeah, Branch and Brown. Yeah.
Southwest. Have you been to Southwest yet?
Yeah.
Oh
Loose
wow,
ends.
that place is great.
Southwest got the gold medal in coffee stouts. They beat the Brewers Traveler, so I was like, I gotta try that shit.
Bitter subject, but
Warpling. How do I forget Warpling?
Warpling.
Yeah.
yeah.
Shout out to Tom.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and
Loose
then you've got
ends.
the outskirts. You've
Big
got
loose
you know
ends.
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
east. You've got
Them
Mount
to
Orem.
Dayton.
You can go out to Sons
They're
of
in
Toil.
Centerville.
Oh, okay.
And is it on Tuesday nights?
Yeah, Tuesday nights they got you
Tuesday
get
nights they have like gourmet grilled cheese and freaking tomato soup
Oh,
for
sick.
$10
with a beer.
with the beer.
Oh shit! It's like a big kid Happy Meal, huh?
I'm talking about like goat cheese grilled cheese
Right,
sandwiches. Like it's
And
ridiculous.
there's like 4 or 5 different kind of grilled cheese you can get.
That's
And
awesome.
they rotate every week now.
Yeah.
Right.
And shout out to John up there, John Luce.
Yeah,
He's
John Luce.
the owner.
If
He's
you haven't been to
awesome
Loose
dude.
Ends, that's one to go to.
Huh?
And the basicest.
Yeah, it's a coffee stout that they just released. Holy shit! It's
So here's the beer
delicious.
drinking, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Absolutely,
Cheers,
man.
Brewers Travelers.
Blues Travelers.
Travel
And
on.
finally got to meet the gnarly gnome.
Hell yeah. Got to, well, I met him. I just never drank a beer with him. So until the next time, fellas. Thanks for meeting up with us.
Yeah. Thanks.